everyone, this is Yana Smakula for SimonsSaysStamp.com, and thanks for joining me today. Welcome to another episode from my bi-monthly Yippee for Yana video series. In today's episode, I'm sharing a MISTI card incorporating watercolor and Copic coloring. I'm starting to work on my card by stamping the cityscape image from Simons from the Rooftops stamp set in intense black ink onto white paper. I'm stamping this image several times as I want to build depth and dimension on my card, and I'll need more than just one row of skyscrapers for this. I'm stamping images in Simons Intense Black ink as I will be coloring them with my Copic markers, and this ink is alcohol friendly and will not bleed when it comes in contact with alcohol. It's also waterproof, so it can be used for all things watercolor. I stamped my image 3 times, and double and even triple stamped each impression to have a nice black outline. I ended up using just 2 images out of 3 for my today's project, so I'm saving that 3rd image for another project. I already have a card idea in mind for that image. I'm going to cut these out using a coordinating die, although since this is a simple image, it's just straight lines, you can cut it out using scissors if you don't have a coordinating die. I'm cutting these out in my Platinum Decking and Embossing machine from Spellbinders. I have it sitting off to the side, so this is why I'm not showing it on camera. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to use Copic markers for my coloring. I want to have these houses on a dark sky background, a galaxy background actually. I already have that background painted. I painted it some time ago when I was working on another project and I didn't use it. So I just saved it for another day, and well, today is that day. I have to say, I love it when I have a background for my card ready and on hand, and I don't have to come up with something new. It's so much faster, and I just love this. I will not be showing you how I painted that watercolor galaxy, as I have shared that a number of times in the past using different coloring mediums. I'll link to those other videos in case you haven't seen them. That being said, the colors of my galaxy background dictated the colors of markers I used to color these houses. I didn't want to use something that would look too odd, so I made sure to pick the colors that coordinated well with the background. I used several color combos, so I didn't color every house in a different color. Instead, I had 2-3 houses painted using same colors. I started with dark, cool grays, and I used C9, C7, and C5 markers. That ended up looking almost black, and I loved it. It really popped up against that night sky. I also colored several houses dark blue using the B39, B99, and B45. I did color one of the houses using lighter blues, but I didn't quite like that color in conjunction with the other colors and up against my background, so I later colored over it using the dark blues. If you don't like watercolor or you don't feel comfortable enough watercoloring a galaxy background for your card, you can create a simple ink-blended background using distress inks or distress oxides. If you want, you can do a watercolor ombre background with the top portion of the panel being the darkest, almost black even, and the bottom portion being the lightest, of maybe a very light blue. I also used warm gray colors for some of the skyscrapers, W5, W3, and W1, and I love how nicely this color worked with the other colors, making that particular building look as if it was made out of stone. I didn't use any purples for my galaxy background, but I felt like I could bring a little bit of dark purple to my coloring. So I used a BV08 and BV04 to color some of the buildings. Because this was such a dark purple color, blue purple really, it worked well with other colors that I picked for this card. I also kept some of the buildings almost white and only added shading using a C5, C3, and C1 markers. Here's what my colored row of skyscrapers looks like. I love how bold and dramatic this turned out. Now, I'm a fan of vivid, bright, and bold colors, but these can be just as easily colored using pastel or softer colors if you like that. To add a bit of bling and shine, I'm going to use an aqua shimmer pen from Tonic Studios, and I'm going to coat my black houses with the shimmer from this pen. I didn't want to coat all of the houses as I think that would have added a little bit too much shimmer. And since this shimmer is best visible on dark surfaces, I picked my darkest buildings. So here are my 2 skyscraper clusters on my background. I think they turned out really well. I also want to stamp a speech bubble for this card saying I miss you, and I'm using the speech bubble image from the same stamp set. I'm stamping it in the same intense black ink and also stamping the miss you using same ink. There is a coordinating die available for this image, so I'm going to cut it out in my die cutting machine. I also want to stamp shouting from the rooftops message, and for this I'm using white embossing powder and black cardstock. I'm just going to trim it into a skinny strip and I'm ready to assemble the card. I love to pop things up on my project, so I'm going to use foam adhesive to adhere the first row of buildings. This one is only going to be adhered partially, meaning I'm only using a part of this row and I'm offsetting it on my background as I want the buildings to look a little bit different. I don't want the 2 rows to look exactly the same. And if you noticed, I actually alternated the colors that I used to color the second image. I used the same colors, but I didn't color the same houses using those colors. So I just mixed things a little bit to make them look different. To foam mount the second image, I'm actually going to create an identical die cut out of fun foam. I've added double-sided sticky onto both sides of the white fun foam, and I used a coordinating die to cut it out. It cut no problem, and I'm just going to use this fun foam layer to back up my colored piece. Now, you don't have to do this. You can just use foam adhesive, but I like my die cuts to have a solid layer of dimension under them. So this is why for this second layer, I die cut another solid layer. I also foam mounted the speech bubble and foam mounted this panel onto an A2 card base made out of white cardstock. Finally, I used thin foam adhesive from scrapbook adhesives to foam mount the sentiment strip. I love using these thin foam squares when I need to pop something up, but I already have a lot of dimension going on my card. So this finishes this card and video. I hope you will give this idea a try. If you do, we would love if you could share your project online and tag us on social media. We would love to see what you make. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done so. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Bye!